The president impeached again. I'm Adrienne Pedersen, today on Up Front.
This was really pouring salt in the wounds, I thought, by Speaker Pelosi.
I think he's dangerous and needs to be removed.
Two views on impeachment and what's next. Plus, Republicans pounce on Wisconsin's COVID-19 vaccination plan. Governor Evers defends it.
We believe that we're doing a pretty good job, frankly.
And the recommendation to vaccinate prisoners. Should they go ahead of other high-risk people?
Taking on the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with your host, Adrienne Pedersen.
The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
President Donald Trump makes history as the only president to be impeached twice. 10 Republicans joined Democrats in charging President Trump with incitement of insurrection at the Capitol. President Trump's critics say he egged on the mob of his supporters that stormed the U.S. Capitol, a riot that left 5 people dead. Wisconsin's congressional delegation voted along party lines, the 3 Democrats for impeachment, the 5 Republicans opposed.
7 days is too long for him to be in power. He could declassify state secrets. He could monetize national secrets to foreign adversaries, and he could even pardon.
Time has expired.
The person.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, Joe Biden has talked about unity and healing. Is that what this is today? Is accusing Republican lawmakers of sedition and calling for their expulsion the plan for healing? Madam Speaker, I hope Mr. Biden is watching today, and he will rise to the moment and call off this effort to rub salt in the wounds of millions of Americans. It is now time for all of us, Democrats and Republicans alike, to turn down the temperature.
So how should we move forward? We're hearing 2 viewpoints today, starting with Milwaukee Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore. And you voted to impeach the president. You gave a very passionate speech about this. Do you think we'll see the Senate eventually go to trial, and when?
You know, I can tell you, Adrienne, I would have hoped the first time I voted to impeach Donald Trump that the Senate would have removed him. But I was not allowing my vote and my agency and my voice to be guided by whether or not they would actually remove him. I think the Republican Party has an opportunity to purge someone from their party who has shown time and again that he is unfit for public office. And it's difficult for me to believe, and I've had conversations with Republicans, and I've served with Republicans over the years. I know what real Republicans are like, for God's sake. And this is an opportunity, I think, for them. He has committed impeachable offenses. Even Mitch McConnell believes that impeachable offenses have occurred. I think that he's dangerous. Every moment that he is in office offers yet another opportunity for him to commit more high crimes and misdemeanors.
And the Senate trial, it wouldn't be until after Joe Biden is already president. So why would you want them to go through with it? I think that's one of the questions from Republicans.
Exactly. That is exactly the reason, because after they remove him, they could then vote to curtail the sort of powers and authorities he'll have as an ex-president. One of the things would be, with a simple majority vote, to prevent him from getting these intelligence briefings. I think it would be very dangerous for a Donald Trump, twice impeached, to have that privilege were he not removed. And, you know, I think it's so disingenuous to talk about healing after this insurrection, which hasn't happened since the War of 1812, where the Capitol was overtaken, where the next people in line for the presidency, the vice president and the speaker, were cowering and running from a lynch mob, and people 100 feet away from the vice president, and for them to say, "Oh well, let's just forget everything and just move on."
Because that's one of the things that Republicans are saying, is that impeachment doesn't bring the country together, is what you're referring to. Well,
when you break it, you own it. Adrienne, and I'm just wondering how realistic that is in terms of a framework for how human beings really behave. 5 people are dead. There are 50 officers that Capitol Police that went to the hospital. I sympathize with the notion that we ought to just be able to move on, but there is no moving on, and there's no reconciling without reconciling.
Wisconsin Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany said it's time for both Democrats and Republicans to lower the temperature. We're talking now with the congressman from Minocqua. So we appreciate you joining us today on Upfront. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about impeachment. That's where we'll start. So House Minority Leader and your fellow Republican Kevin McCarthy voted against impeachment, but he did say the president bears responsibility for the attack on Congress by mob rioters. Do you agree? Do you think the president bears some responsibility?
He bears some responsibility, yes.
And in saying that, then why didn't you go ahead and vote for impeachment?
For 2 reasons. One is process. There was no evidentiary hearing. It was just thrown before us, the full House of Representatives, and expected to vote on it. We should have due process for anyone at this point yet. So it was certainly a process thing. And then secondly is President Trump will no longer be president next week. Joe Biden will be the 46th president. And this was really pouring salt in the wounds, I thought, by Speaker Pelosi. Should have just let the process play out. Joe Biden will be the next president this coming week.
And when you say, you didn't have an evidentiary hearing, but don't you have all the witnesses right there in the House? I mean, you all saw what happened. You know what happened. You were there, front row.
Well, I think full information needs to come out. In fact, I hope there's a full investigation, and it should be a bipartisan investigation of what happened on January 6th. For example, we just heard in the last couple days that a man from Utah, I believe his name is Bennett, was involved with riots last summer. He was there egging people on. We really need to know the full scope of what has happened, and we did not do that. It's time to turn the page and move on.
Well, federal prosecutors are now saying that the rioters, they believe, had planned to capture and assassinate elected officials, which is terrifying news. We're also hearing reporting that maybe some members of Congress were afraid to vote to impeach the president. They were afraid that the president's supporters would come after them. Is that anything that crossed your mind?
So think about it. I have one of the strongest districts for the president in the state of Wisconsin. And my vote through this whole process, regardless of which vote it was, I never feared the president's supporters. We have to go forward and do what we think is the right thing. And that's part of the reason why I supported the objection to the electors. I wanted to get to the bottom of, are we doing our election processes appropriately? Let's make sure we're only counting legal ballots. That's the reason why I supported doing some review of our elections from the very beginning after the November 3rd elections.
But when it comes to objecting to the election, so last week on this show, Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher said it would be hard for him to support anyone who went through with objecting to the election results after people died at the Capitol. You're on that list of objectors. You've had time now to let it sink in, to think about it. Do you stand by objecting? You did so in 2 states, and you said you would have done Wisconsin if you had the chance.
Yeah, I stand by those objections because there are many irregularities, and those have not gone by. Those have not been dealt with. Now, January 6th, the process is completed for who will be the next president. Joe Biden will be the next president. I accept that, and we're going to move on. But the election irregularities, they continue. Remember in Wisconsin, we had people who were getting around the photo ID requirement by claiming to be indefinitely confined, and they were not. These things need to be dealt with before the next election, or we're going to be in this same place 2 years from now.
Congressman Tiffany joining us from Minocqua. Thank you for your time today.
It's good to be here, Adrienne.
You can see my entire interviews with Tom Tiffany as well as Gwen Moore on our website, the Upfront section of WISN.com. Coming up, questions about Wisconsin's COVID-19 vaccine rollout.
The process that's in place just seems overly bureaucratic and cumbersome.
It is not going to happen overnight. Whether you do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Next, the Republican criticism and the governor's response. Can we get the vaccine out sooner?